With his plan finally coming together, will Mark Shapiro remain Blue Jays president heading into next season? Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Long Ball. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Blue Jays writer Rob Longley. And Rob, last week we spoke about Bo Bichette and his future with the Blue Jays. And this week it's time to go up to the front office and take a look at Mark Shapiro, who met with the media earlier this week. And as he spoke about that, he has finally established his brand of baseball after 10 years with this ball club. They are, of course, first place in the American League. And Mark Shapiro, as we understand, is in an expiring contract. He did talk about wanting to be in Toronto long term and said that the feeling from the ownership has been reciprocal in his words, so take that for what you will. But when you look at this situation, how do you handicap it as far as Mark Shapiro's future with the Blue Jays?
Yeah, Rob, it's amazing what a first place team does, right? Everybody wants to come back, and the fans want everybody to come back. It's certainly a change of the narrative from a year ago. Handicapping the situation, I think there's a strong probability that he would come back. I think there's a willingness to do so from both sides. I had a long interview with Shapiro back in spring training, and I asked him the question about his contract status. And he explained it to me then that, yes, it was expiring, and that the conversations would happen at an appropriate time. And I was left with the impression, reading between the lines, that a lot of it depended on what happened this season. If things went in the right direction, if things went in the direction that both Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins believed it would, then that would be a good time to have those discussions for an extension from both sides, right? Mark Shapiro can get a job pretty much anywhere in baseball if he wants to, but the fact is he loves his situation in Toronto. He really appreciates the autonomy he gets from Rogers. He's a man of a fair bit of power within the Blue Jays structure. He makes all the important decisions. He was behind the very successful stadium renovations that, we've seen the place full now for 12 consecutive games, and that's bringing in a lot of money to ownership. So that's why ownership would be reciprocal, to use Shapiro's words, in that belief that he's the guy for the future. And then you move on to the baseball side of it, and sure, things have really worked out well. In concert with general manager Ross Atkins, suddenly the prospect situation is much better than it was a year ago and 2 years ago. Suddenly you're a first place team. Suddenly there's a lot of optimism around the team. It's like probably the most since his first year here in 2016. So yeah, I think there's a willingness, not only a willingness from both sides to make it happen, but it would make a lot of sense. And it wouldn't shock me at all if it were to happen quietly before the end of the season or early into the off season.
Yeah, it really has been a complete 180 with regards to how the fans feel with this front office and where things stand right now. The big trade deadline acquisition, Shane Bieber. Hard to believe it, Rob. We're 2 weeks away since the trade deadline, and we still haven't seen Shane Bieber in a Blue Jays uniform. Now, we all expected that, of course, as he is making his return from Tommy John surgery, but he is set to throw another rehab game with Buffalo this week. And we go beyond that. When do you think we might actually see him make his Blue Jays debut?
Well, as soon as next week, I think, is a possibility, Rob. It certainly strikes me that his rehab appearance in Buffalo this week, tomorrow, is as much a dress rehearsal as anything. Work on a few things, make sure that pitch count is up there, make sure everything is sound technically, and have it as your final, like I said, finishing school effort to get back up to the major leagues. And that's when things get really interesting around this team, especially with George Springer coming back as well. Some hard decisions to be made, and I suspect that that decision-making process is well underway. With what essentially will be a six-man rotation, do you go that way? Do you look to make one guy a long man out of the bullpen, which, as we've talked about in the past, Rob, they don't really have right now. But certainly, as it applies to Bieber, a lot of excitement around that, I think, because it was a bold acquisition at the trade deadline, as we've discussed, high risk, high reward, and we're about to see just how rewarding it's going to be. And if he's here as soon as next week making a start, that gives him as many as 4 or 5 at least before the end of the season. And that would allow Shane Bieber to get into the best Shane Bieber form of his career if all things go well. And then you've got the possibility of him being a game 1 or a game 2 starter once the playoffs start. So yeah, I think he's almost there. I think you could probably bring him up right now, but there's no real rush to do that. And moreover, it really is perfect timing. If you get him up here in a Blue Jays uniform pitching as a starter next week, you've got just enough time, more than enough time actually, but plenty of time to get him ready for the postseason. It couldn't work out better in terms of timing to this point anyway.
Well, it should be a massive boost to the starting rotation, which at times has looked a little bit shaky here the last couple of weeks, but the Blue Jays still holding firm on that top position in the AL East and in the American League. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. For Rob Longley, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.